Hello everyone and welcome to episode 23 of the Spawn Point podcast. Joining me as always is Andy Webb and Steve Barnett, and we've also got our cameo appearance of the Master Chief. And this week we're going to be talking about three things, which is a gaming system that draws real blood, Elite Dangerous and people demanding refunds for it not having an offline mode, and also how Microsoft is catching up with Sony and also talking about how we think they're doing it. So to start off, I've got to explain, it's not a gaming system really that's drawing blood, but it's more of like a modification for rumble packs for controllers. But there was a Kickstarter campaign for basically every time the controller vibrates, it draws real blood from you. And the idea behind this is to help get more people to donate blood, but it could be very dangerous potentially. Now I know Steve has something he wants to say about this, so I'm going to let him kind of kick things off. So Steve, what do you make of what you've read about this and what your general thoughts about it?
Two things. The first one is, I take it you have to insert a needle yourself, so not medically trained. So
I don't think you're going to get a nurse to call up a nurse and be like, "Can you come round my house and insert?"
Yeah. So you've got to make sure you get it into the vein, because that's where you get the blood from, obviously. The second one is that if it's done via vibration, if you say, for instance, every time you get killed, if you're a bad person at playing Call of Duty or something, and you get killed so many times, your heart's going to be pumping so much to make more blood. Like, I think this could potentially be really dangerous. Like, Well,
there is meant to be a safeguard in it, but there is literally only one in terms of like the dangers if it taking too much blood. There's only one question in the entire FAQ section that actually answers that, like covers that kind of topic and that concern. And it's basically like, just like with donating blood at hospitals or wherever, there's a safeguard, there's a cut-off point where it doesn't take too much. But I guess there could always be problems, and but basically what happened is that Kickstarter actually ended up suspending the project themselves, which I guess could be just due to numerous concerns. But it wasn't actually, even if it was to continue its funding, then it wasn't really raising money at the pace that it wanted to in order to reach the goal, so it might not have even got funded anyway, even if it hadn't got suspended. But Andy, what do you think about? Are you concerned about this if this ever did get funded, or do you think it's a good thing? Or
I think the idea behind it is quite good. So they're saying, hey, we want to try and get more people involved in giving blood. And why not do it through video gaming? Because virtually everyone these days is sort of leaning towards video gaming. It's less of a geeky thing, and people do need blood. So I think the sort of premise behind it is quite a good idea.
One thing I can see is, I'm not saying I would do this, but I'm sure there would be a way to get around the safeguard, and I could see some people saying, "I'm gonna 1v1 you. Let's fight literally to the death. Let's turn off the safeguard, and if I kill you in the game, I'm taking all your blood, mate." Like you're done. I mean, and they just sat there like.
But like the actual thing itself wasn't like a blood system where you could buy it and stick it in your living room. It was to create a thing.
Well, what about when they're not looking? You go tap and you can go dee dee dee.
So
people could turn into vampires, like kind of.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a good premise behind it, like of getting people to donate blood, in a fun way of you're playing a game and you're donating blood without even realizing it. But I can see
if you don't donate too much.
But I can see how it can intimidate or scare people. The thought of like, well, if I take damage in the game, like the logic is, well, if I take too much damage in the game, what happens? My character dies. If I lose damage, I lose blood. So if I take too much damage, do I take too much blood and then that also happens? Like I can see immediately, like alarm bells ring. As soon as you hear about this idea, you're like, hang on a minute. This is really dangerous. Like,
let me say something. Well, just say, for instance, you're on a battlefield, right, and you're being shot by a helicopter, like, you know, that blood must be go into the siphon, kind of thing.
No? I don't know, because it said it uses the same system as a blood giving machine does. So have you actually given blood?
No.
I think I've done once. I've given blood.
So it pretty much there's a needle shoved in you, and it doesn't like flow out in a constantly fast rate. It's sort of.
But they sometimes give you like stuff to have, so to kind of keep your blood sugar or something, don't they? Like they give you something to eat usually.
Usually that you get like some biscuits and a drink afterwards, but
sometimes some people can like pass out from giving blood, can't they? Like if they do it too much, like especially. And I guess if people were like, well, I feel like quite exciting that when I take damage, I'm actually helping. So maybe I should do this more and more and more. And then they kind of go overboard. Like
so like one of my old housemates. So I gave blood with her when I was at uni, and it was a bit of a complication where when they took the needle out, there was blood that just went everywhere. And they had all of the nurses.
You had like the nurse taking it out, and she went. The nurse was
the nurse
like,
is just running around, just going. Oh,
the nurse is just going. Let's take this out here.
Meanwhile, there's some poor kid who's trying to give blood for the first time, just seeing all this blood. Just
imagine you should just run out, gone. Ah!
No, I was the other side of the room trying to give blood myself. I just saw these people crowd around her. I was like, what is going on over there?
Andy, put your finger on my arm.
But
it's like a leak in a pipe. Let's.
It's fine.
But yeah, I guess it really. I don't know. Do you think Kickstarter did the right thing in suspending it?
Yeah. People could be just like sit in a corner, bro, and take some damage.
Yeah, but it's not like it's not that you're setting this up in your own house. Like you're not. It's not like I could go right now. Okay, I'm going to hook this machine up to my Xbox right now. But like, yeah, see you later, guys. I'm just about to give some blood.
yeah, I mean,
hopefully I'll still be here tomorrow.
Look, I feel like if people want to be stupid enough to be trying to do this. Is stupid the right word? If people are willing to sort of take the risk with it, and it has all of the proper kit involved, that stops all of the blood coming out after you've given enough that you can do, or you generally do in a blood giving session, then I don't think it's potentially bad. But I suppose Kickstarter don't really want their name on it if something went wrong.
Like if there's health issue, like if something went wrong, or there was some sort of like. I don't know, because anything involving health is always going to raise concerns if it could affect things in a negative way. But there's one thing, and not on Kickstarter on the page, but the article that we've all read is from cnet.com, and there's one particular statement which just kind of I don't know, it's the way that the way that it's worded. The whoever wrote the article, the way they worded, they put. A system that turns the act of donating blood into a competitive gaming situation. So that kind of makes it sound like you're competitively giving blood. Like, I can give more blood than you. Like, well, and then it kind of goes, that could be taken a bit too far. Like, if you see it as in that way, like,
I think it would get
the act of donating blood's a competitive gaming situation. Like, I can give more blood than you. Oh yeah? Well, I can last on 2 liters of blood. I bet you can't. Like, it's a little bit like.
Yeah, I suppose it does run the risk of, if the people behind it weren't doing a good enough job, then the system will cut off after, I think it's a pint of blood. But what's to stop someone just going, hey, plug in a new bag into the system, and then
just
take
doing it
another
again
pint
and again. It might stop to a certain point, but you could just go back and do it again. Like, for example, I could give blood in any scenario. I could give blood. I could go to like a hospital or something. Give blood there. And then come back later and do it again, and come back later and do it again.
Yeah, but they'd have a record that you've done that.
Yeah, but I don't ever remember them clarifying my address or anything.
I don't know.
So if you gave false details, I'm sure they'd be like, yeah, cool.
Why anyone would want to do that? Like, give false details just to give more blood? I don't know.
Well, some places they pay you, don't they, to donate blood, or is that just in America I'm thinking of?
I think that's just in America. Like,
because you have like homeless people that like give too much blood or something. I've heard stories of like homeless people giving too much of their blood just try and get more money, and that kind of.
Actually, no. I think in some places in the UK you can give blood for research, and they do pay for it there. But I think it's mainly free over here.
Overall, the only thing that scares me about it is just you can't turn the act of giving blood into a competitive situation. You can't make it a competitive thing. You know, it's a little bit like if you're donating to charity money-wise, that's not really dangerous in any way, because if it's in a competitive sense, then it's like, well, I'll raise more money than you or whatever. But when it comes to your own personal health and it becomes a competitive situation, if you're saying, oh, I can donate more blood than you or I can do whatever, then that might be a risk if you're trying to see it in that kind of way. So I think it depends how you look at it. But moving on from that, Elite Dangerous, Andy, you wrote an article about this, that people want refunds because there was originally promised an offline mode on the Kickstarter, if I'm led to believe. They promised some sort of offline mode, and now they're saying that it has to always be connected to the internet in some shape or form. You can do a single player, like you don't have to play with other people, but you still will be required to have an internet connection, you know, whether you're playing with others or you're playing with yourself. And some people demanded refunds for that, and in terms of getting refunds, there's two particular things. So if you're somebody who has pre-ordered a version that basically has pre-ordered the game but hasn't had a chance to play it, you haven't bought the beta, for example, and played it, then you're eligible for a refund. But if you purchase beta access and where you get the £50, I believe it's £50, you get the beta access and like the mercenary edition of the game, then you're not eligible for a refund, because if you've already played like the alpha, the beta, all that stuff, then you've already basically consumed a product that you have to pay for a product that you've consumed, essentially. You know, you can't have just played the alpha and the beta for free, so they're not really giving you a refund in that sense if you've already had a chance to access it. But what are both of your views, really? I mean, Andy, I know you've already kind of stated this on your article about your views, but if you just kind of wanted to, raise some of those points again, just for the sake of the podcast, for people who haven't checked that out yet, and just kind of give a summary of some of the things that you have to take from it.
Yeah, so I think what I said my arguments were for this was the fact that if someone's originally bought the game specifically for the offline mode, and they can't do it anymore and they pre-ordered it, then I think their terms of refunds are fair enough. Like, I bought a game, it's no longer going to support one of the modes that I wanted, so you give me the refund, and that's fine. But with the fact that they're going, well, people have played the game already, they bought beta access, they're quite happily playing it over the internet because that's the only way you can play it at the moment, then it's obvious that you'll be able to play it in the future, so why do we need to give a refund? What are the valid reasons for that? And unless they've sort of done it, they've downloaded it and played the game, and they're having issues with them actually connecting due to their internet connection or something like that, I feel like they shouldn't be getting a refund.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you had pre-ordered it, like personally for me, it's say for example with any game, if I had pre-ordered something and at the time of me pre-ordering it, it was marketed to have something that it no longer has, then I feel that as somebody who hasn't played it yet, who has bought it for those purposes because at the time it had mentioned that, I do feel like I'd be entitled for a refund. But if I was in the clear understanding, like if I pre-ordered it now, even if I hadn't played it yet, I think I wouldn't be entitled to a refund, because it's quite clear now, if I pre-ordered it, that I should have an understanding of what I'm buying as a consumer. And if if I bought it now, then it's like, it's clear there's not going to be an offline mode. So I can't complain because at the time of me buying it, that's been made, very clear. But Steve, I guess to put it into context, I guess I don't really need to for another game because you played Elite Dangerous at EGX. In fact, all three of us did. Would having an offline, would you be wanting a refund if you had pre-ordered it for having an offline mode you'd be able to connect to, or would you not really care? Would that really affect you in any way, having to always be connected to the internet?
In regards to if I didn't, for instance, have the money to pay for my internet bill, for whatever reason, say I lost my job or whatever, and I didn't have that money to connect, to have the internet, I wouldn't be able to play Elite Dangerous. But that isn't the case for me. But that wouldn't really bother me, because I would rather want to play online rather on my own. But again, I kind of agree with you guys that if you bought a game and it stated in there that there was going to be an offline mode and they decided to take it out, then obviously for a refund. But if you've played the beta and and all that stuff, then no, you're not, you can't be awarded a refund because you've already played the product, you've got the use out of it, so you have to pay.
And I think the thing with this is the fact that it was a Kickstarter game as well. So this was put on Kickstarter back in 2012. This is one of the sort of first games through the process.
And how much did it raise? A record amount?
Raised
didn't it?
1.5 million, I think it was.
Or pounds or dollars?
Pounds. So Cambridge.
Probably the equivalent about $2.3 million, I reckon.
So,
yeah. So
it was a Kickstarter game, and obviously with Kickstarter stuff, it's all of the features that they sort of advertise in there is not necessarily going to be reflective of the final product.
Yeah,
so,
sometimes they even get cancelled, or they get they get completely abandoned, or they don't turn out the way. I guess it's the same with. This is actually very relevant to what I talked about in the news this week, which was that with early access games, Valve are kind of toughening down on their guidelines on kind of what's acceptable and what's not, and why you should get involved in early access. And one of the things is they're saying that they want people to buy the game in its current state, not what it may or may not have in the future. If you're buying the beta and you're happy to play it at its current state with regardless of future promises, only buy something that's playable right now that you're willing to play in the current state. Don't kind of hang about, it might have this mode in the future. Buy it for what it's got now, and if you're waiting for a particular mode, wait until it does have that until you purchase it.
Doesn't Kickstarter, in its terms and conditions, or something that the Kickstarter people are doing, that if you fund something or fund to something, then you take that risk that it could turn out to be a bad game.
Yeah, they've kind of changed them slightly, but they've still got the main point still stands about refunds, that they don't have to issue them. But they have to issue them to if they don't fulfill the rewards, really, which is a very kind of, it's, if you promise in a reward, if you back £30, you'll get a t-shirt, a t-shirt that's got a digital print on it, and that'll be sent to you. If it's funded, and you've basically backed that and you've selected that reward under the intention you're going to get that t-shirt, and you don't get that t-shirt, then that's where you're entitled to a refund. But that isn't really the case, because this is to do with the actual game. That it never said in the rewards, I don't believe, that if you back £10 you'll get an offline mode. It was never promised in the rewards.
So yeah, I mean, it's in the actual rewards structure. It was, if you back and there's various different levels, you'll get a digital copy of the game, or you'll get a physical copy of the game. And then in this sort of main script, it said, "Hey, we're gonna look at doing a single player offline mode that won't need to connect to the servers." And back in 2012, when they actually did this, the terms and conditions of Kickstarter were slightly different. But they did say the project creator is not required to grant a backer's request for a refund unless the project creator is unable or unwilling to fulfill the rewards. So people are getting a game, so they're fulfilling the reward, so therefore they don't need to give them any money back, technically.
I guess it's a little bit like if I was to say there was a gaming desk, like a desk built for gamers, for like a PC gamer, and yet it was designed in a certain way to like fit certain monitors in certain places, or had like, I don't know, cup holders for drinks or something like that. And they make some changes to the design aspects of it. Essentially, if they're still giving me what they said, are you still offering me the same product? You know, like, yeah, okay, it's got some changes to it, but at the end of the day, are you still offering me that gaming desk, or are you offering me something? You're not offering me at all, or you're offering me something different? Like, am I still getting the end product? Like, there's technicalities behind it, but you know, like, I mean, it still stands that this even goes to the Far Cry about people complaining about, well, people complaining on the internet that what if you don't have the update for Far Cry 4 that allows you to have the field of view on PC? But the thing is that if you're using the internet to complain about that, can't you use the internet to update the game with that? And it's a little bit like if you're complaining on the internet about Elite Dangerous not having an online offline mode, surely, you know, you've got access to the internet and you're able to complain about something using the thing that you're required to use that you're complaining about.
Yeah, and obviously the game's fairly big. I can't actually remember how big it is. It's quite a number of gigabytes.
So is it stored like on the computer, all of the game? Like, do you install it to the game, or is it just stored like on a cloud somewhere?
So you download a version of the game, and then you have to connect to a server to connect into the game. But all of the sort of the worlds and the galaxy is stored on a central server somewhere.
Oh, right.
And so people can influence that, and you're just connecting into it and just getting pings back from the game. But they do say that you need a low bandwidth internet connection to actually play it on the single player mode. And even in places with a bad connection, apparently it should be good enough to run the game. But I mean, it's almost as if people purchased a game with just a paragraph saying what it could involve.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit goes back to like some people. Like this is the thing. I've kind of changed my views on when we had the discussion about pre-ordering games and you know, pre-order bonuses, all that stuff. Like, I think it's okay to pre-order a game, but it depends on how close it is to the release window. And like, for example, if the game is coming out in a week's time and there's plenty of videos for you to already check out and you've got plenty of information for you to already make up your mind, then I think that's acceptable to a degree. You know, if you've got, you know, enough about the game for you to form your own opinion of it, then I think, you know, that's fair enough. But I think what I don't get is people that buy into a game or pre-order a game or pay for a game up front, a year or 6 months before the things come out. And it's like, well, so much can change in that space of time, you know. Things that they might want to do might not work out, and things that might not have been introduced before that you might hate might be introduced. It's like,
but no, hang on. I paid $1,000. I put $1,000 on this. I'm entitled to have some sort of input into this game's development because I put my money. It's people getting on high horses about it.
But I mean, the thing is though, like, if you're gonna basically put that money in and have that money taken out of your account that early on, and you're not willing, you know, things are going to change and you're not going to be happy about, well, I don't know why you would, you know, it's not going to, you might as well, when pre-order, if you are going to buy something beforehand and you want it on the day that it comes out, then get it when all of the development process of the game is finished, you know, like, if a game comes out in a week or 2 weeks, usually the only thing that's really, all of the content's done is just usually polishing, fixing bugs, minor tweaks and changes, nothing completely game changing. So you're not going to be in for any unpleasant surprises or anything that you might not, big changes they make that you might not like. But you kind of come to kind of expect that. You can't go, this game's says it's going to be this 2 years ago and it's still going to be that. Like, people have different decisions and they think, this is a more sensible decision. And it sounds like with Elite Dangerous, well, they think, with things constantly evolving and changing and, when you're playing with other people, there's, new content's always been added. Having an offline mode doesn't really make much sense because you're wanting new content to be added again and again. And, you're going to be missing out on that. So why be offline if you're just going to restrict yourself from future stuff?
Yeah, that's it exactly. And I don't know where I was just about to go with my next point. That's it. Star Citizen. If you look at that, that has raised a ridiculous amount of money.
Like 66 million or something.
It's something stupid like that. And Chris Roberts was saying that he thinks that, or he wants to get at least £100 million pounds for that. But if you look at the game at the moment, it's all that there is a module that you can just do some ship battle, and they previewed a first-person shooter part of it, and that's all that's in the game at the moment. And there's a lot of stuff that's promised with it, and are we going to see it all? I'm struggling to comprehend.
All you can really run off is the base concept, really, of the game.
Yeah,
and that's really not enough information to go by.
But people are literally just chucking their money at it, and I have to say I chucked money at it in the Kickstarter back 2 years ago. But people are just chucking money at the screen, and they just want the game so much that I think that's why they're doing it. But it won't be the same, I feel.
Everyone has an idea of a perfect game in their head of they get the concept of the game and everybody has their idea of how it's going to turn out, and it's always different. Like, everyone has a scenario like, I can't wait to do this, I can't wait when I'd be able to do that. And then they kind of take what one minor thing might be said. Like, the best example for me is, even I'm guilty of it, like, with GTA 5, like, there were so many things that were, like, talked about, like, rumours or potential features. It's like, I can't wait to get a pet on the game and kind of do whatever, and none of these things were really confirmed, but they were like potential concepts. And, I kind of got my hopes up with certain things. I was like, I kind of got disappointed with some of the things that weren't there because I was expecting them to be, but only because it was all in my head, really. It wasn't
the amount official. Of things that me and you talked about that we were going to do, and when we got the game, it was like,
yeah. Like, the other thing was about jobs. Like, when they said, it's going to be jobs in GTA, I was like, real jobs, like, sim style, like, where I can actually go to a job. Like, I remember me and Steve having a conversation, like, I'll finish my job on the game and then we'll go and do a drive-by, like, jokingly, and state stuff like that. But, like, jobs just meant, like, jobs was just, like, a fancy way of saying, go and, shoot these people, or like go and retrieve this package. It was never like actual, it's misleading. But like,
I wanted to be a bank manager on GTA 5.
Why would you want to be a bank manager?
This was a job. Mundane thing.
Yeah, but no, I'm not just saying why would you want any jobs in it. Like, hey, let's try and shake off real life by playing it.
But to me,
why would you want to do that?
To me, it was gonna be quite funny because I was just thinking in the comedic sense of like funny jobs you could have. Like, you could be a lawyer, like a corrupt lawyer, and you get to kind of decide who's kind of guilty, and the cases are always a bit kind of humorous. Like, I don't know, some prostitute got caught doing some illegal thing. I don't know, but like, and then you kind of have to decide, like, I know that they're guilty.
Go to the grinder.
I know that they're guilty, but shall I let them go anyway? And then that kind of affects other things, or you kind of hear, because you have the news station on the TV on that game, and it was kind of like, to me, if I make a decision, I let someone go free, maybe I could go back to my house that I've bought, and I go back there, and then I find out on the news that the person I let go went on a rampage and murdered loads of people, and I shouldn't have done that, or something like that. But anyway.
I could have a virtual job, right? And I could just whack my boss with a baseball bat, like, you get what I mean?
all that. But anyway, all that. But moving on. Recently, I know we've talked about like console wars before, and we've talked about like the PS4 and the Xbox One, and why the console wars exist, and that like the Xbox One did a 180. But recently, Microsoft have been catching up with Sony, and the original thing that they said when they revealed, I believe when they revealed the console, is they said that they're trying to win the marathon, not the sprint. And what's happened basically is Sony are sitting on about, as of the middle of this month, the latest figures are that 13.5 million units of PS4s have been sold, and 10 million Xbox One units have been shipped. So that's a big gap, because before it was about 2-to-1 ratio. It was a little bit like, I believe it was when PS4 was on 10 million, Xbox One was on like 5 million. And so there's been a big jump this holiday. And so they've been sort of catching up. So there could be plenty of potential reasons behind this. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts as to why you think they've been able to catch up since when they initially released the console, and they kind of didn't release it ideally because they didn't talk about games much, and they angered a lot of people, and they had to kind of go back. A lot was said. Some of the potential reasons why you think they've been able to kind of close that gap, as it were, between the two systems.
I'll go first. I think my way of thinking is because when Xbox released their console, they were talking more about TV, was it? Like, and stuff like entertainment kind of thing?
It was more like a all-in-one entertainment system.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of focus. It wasn't really much focus at E3 originally when it was revealed. It was like, oh, you can watch TV, you can chat to your friends, you can, like, that kind of stuff.
You can watch sports
TV.
on it.
But yeah, people weren't buying an Xbox One to do all that. Like, but PS4 did. And I think now, like Phil Spencer, he's now concentrating solely on games. So now I think that people are going back and thinking, actually, I've got faith back in the Xbox One now. Phil Spencer's turned it around. He's concentrating more on games. PS4's doing the same thing. That's the reason why sales went up.
One thing I'd quite like to point out is I had quite a funny phone call with Steve, where originally what happened back in October is he had sold his PlayStation 3, and I believe it was October, and he said, oh yeah, I've sold my PS3, I'm going to go just focus purely on PC. I'm never going to buy a PS4 or an Xbox One. And then I think it was only like 2 or 3 days later, if even that. And then he says, oh yeah, I've just got my PS3 again. I got it back. I'm going to play on PS3 again with my friends, cause I still want to play on that. And then it came to Advanced Warfare at the beginning of this month, and he said, yeah, I'm just getting it for PC because I don't think I'm going to get a PS4 or Xbox One or anything like. Oh no! Before that, he said he was thinking about buying an Xbox One. Then he goes, that was a week before that. Then go to the 3rd of November. I'm thinking about I'm just going to be a PC gamer from now on. I'm not going to get any more consoles ever again. And I thought, yeah, that's not true. And then he goes out and goes, oh, I've got a PS4 now with Far Cry 4. So he's gone from, not being I'm going to be a PC gamer to, I've got a PS4. And now he's saying to me, oh yeah, and I might get an Xbox One further down the line.
In the new year.
But the reason why this is relevant is because you said that you bought a PS4 off of your friend who was getting an Xbox One instead. Did they say why they were getting an Xbox One instead of the PS4?
Well, mainly for him is because, like, he's got friends that play on PS4. They've moved over from Xbox 360 to PS4. He, made a transition. He can't get on with it with the controller. So some of his friends are still over on Xbox One, and he's going over because there's some exclusives that are on Xbox One that are not on PS4.
All right. One thing, Andy, I think you had something you wanted to say about PS4 always focusing on games, that you didn't agree with that?
Yeah, so you probably know recently that Sony revealed PlayStation Vue, which is their streaming service TV and media. So it actually looks like where Microsoft started off with like, hey, it's going to be an all-in-one entertainment console, and Sony were like, this is going to be a games console, and now they're sort of changing places.
You mean like
almost
the 180 of the PS4, kind of going back?
Yeah, so the PS4 is getting more and more sort of integration, and I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. I actually think they've gone, well, we've solidified our stance in gaming, and now we're going to expand. I think that was the right way to go. But I think the reason why Xbox is gaining traction is because they've gone, we want to focus on games now, and we understood that there were some mistakes. Not everyone wanted the Kinect to start with, so they took that out, and they are actually listening to feedback. So I think that's something that is making them go in the right direction.
I mean, I have a couple of theories. One of them is, I believe that because the Master Chief Collection for Halo, which is just like 1 to 4, all of the games, all the multiplayer, online co-op, all of that, for the price of a regular full price game, has been the reason why a lot of people have gone out and bought a console specifically for that previously were like, well, I love playing Halo on Xbox 360, but if I want to get this, I'm going to have to upgrade. And so they've gone, okay, well, I'm going to get that now.
And they're having a good spoiler-free, not spoiler-free, technical issue-free experience with that, haven't they?
A patch that made things a whole lot worse, ironically, for a lot of people. But also there was a price cut, and I wish we got this in the UK, because if we did, it would mean, so the Xbox One, $350, you get, without Kinect, you get the system, Assassin's Creed Black Flag and Assassin's Creed Unity for $350, which is the equivalent of about £220.
Is that on Black Friday deals or whatever they call
just,
it over in?
Not even Black Friday. That's now.
That's just a holiday. Sort of
it's
deal.
the holiday deal. So if that's in the UK, and this is why I can't stand when people in America complain about console, about it's too expensive to get a next gen, or current gen console, whatever you want to refer to it as. But I hate when people say it, because like, you've got it good. Like, you have to pay $350. We have to pay £350. Like, that minus those two games, in theory, those two games are basically £45. That's making the console about, what are we talking here?
$550 is £350.
Yeah, so we should be but it's not available in the UK, this deal. But the PS4, just the PS4, the base model is $400. So you can get an Xbox One now with two games for $350.
Wow.
Or you can get just the PS4 for $400. So a massive price cut.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Xbox One was always more expensive. So that's probably another thing that needs to be taken on board. I also think, obviously, there's the Halo collection that's come out, that's going to boost things. Also, making Kinect an optional thing, I think, also is a very kind of big thing that's kind of pushed them towards that. But
yeah, I mean, and also with them taking out Kinect as well, it has not given it a boost in performance, but it's allowed the system to use that extra,
it's like 10% more GPU or something,
because it's not using the Kinect to use that with. So.
Do you want to know how useless this thing is? Like, if I go Xbox on, oh damn it did it!
I was just about to say, like, whenever you trial it on this, it doesn't work, but when you don't want it to work, it just goes, I'm going to turn on.
Okay, so usually it winds me up, because I will say that the worst thing, they've now put on the controller, you can now double tap the home button or the main middle button to record a clip that's just happened. Before that, you had to go, Xbox, record that. Xbox, record that. Oh, damn it. Like, and now I've lost the clip, because you had to voice command to record, like, say you did a really amazing thing in a game, you'd be like, Xbox, record that. Xbox, you yell at it. Like, you can't whisper to it. You can't talk normally. You have to yell at it. So I think having that not as an option, not having it as mandatory, really has kind of saved it. But do you think they'll continue to catch up given they keep making these decisions? And if, do you think PlayStation are kind of going to continue going in that opposite direction of focusing less about games? Or do you think that if they realise that Microsoft are catching up, then they'll just focus back on games? I think at the end of the day, it is a games console, and it seems like sales slow down for one and the other as soon as they stop focusing about games as much, which is obvious because they are games consoles, so they should be focusing about games. If I've got a microwave, you should be focusing on about how I can heat my food, not about how I can watch TV on it, you know. That's a bit of a weird comparison.
Yeah, I mean, you can actually get microwaves with TVs in, and do you know anyone that actually owns one?
No.
Because I don't. That was a stupid
When you buy
idea,
something, you want something for its sole use and it to be marketed as that, and I think, yeah.
And
would you
like, if you're at a microwave, your food's gonna cook in 5 minutes maximum. How much of a TV show are you gonna see with that? Nothing.
5 minutes of adverts, but yeah.
But yeah, I feel like Sony are just trying to branch out at the moment, just because they can. Because they've got their game streaming service, PlayStation Now, and they're like, well, if we can do
But apparently they're still making, even though they're ahead of the game by everyone else, they're still making a loss because of how bad the Vita's doing. The Vita is dragging down. The success of the PS4 and how much profit that can bring is being brought down by its ugly cousin, the PS Vita. Even though I do own one, but I kind of regret buying it now when I bought it back 2 years ago or whenever. But yeah, that's kind of like, it's funny. The Nintendo, I think Nintendo and Sony need to kind of like brainstorm together, because Nintendo 3DS is doing brilliant, Wii U struggling. Sony, PlayStation 4 is doing brilliant, PS Vita's doing terrible. Like, it's the opposites of each other.
I wouldn't say at the moment the Wii U is struggling, because the sales have definitely gone up a lot because
but in comparison to the 3DS, I mean, like, it's like they're better at hand. They're succeeding better at handheld. Sony's succeeding better at home consoles.
But we did see last week, was it the week before, that the sales of 3DSs are actually declining slightly, and the Wii U sales are actually increasing still.
Maybe that's probably due to there being more games or something. I don't know.
Probably due to the fact that virtually everyone has a 3DS now, and there's only so much saturation the market can have.
Yeah, but I think we might as well wrap it up. We don't want to go over time, even though we probably have. But this has been episode 23, very long episode 23 of The Spawn Point. And so from me, Andy Webb, Steve Barnett, and our cameo appearance of Master Chief, it is goodbye from all four of us.
Goodbye.
Good boo!